It's finally time, well, it's actually past time, to dig up our peanuts.
We were a little bit behind because we probably should have done this before they got hit with a little bit of frost. But we are taking out our Valencia peanuts. That basically everything we're taking out here came from one of our amazing viewers, Dave Knight, who gave us quite a few peanuts. And we did a trial earlier. I think we have a video on it. If we do, I'll link it above, where we talked about the difference between some of the Valencia peanuts that we'd bought as seed versus the ones that we'd got from Dave. And basically almost every plant that came up was the seeds that had been collected from Dave. So pretty excited to see what we get here. Now we can give you a little bit of a sneak peek because I pulled a few plants out. This is one plant, and as you can see, there's a lot of peanuts on it. Now one thing I have sort of been finding in this little bit that I've pulled out, some of the outliers, because what they want to do is the stems will lay down and you'll see there's peanuts along the edge of the stem. When I pull the plants out, some of them do break off, and so what I'm actually doing is I'm redigging around where the plants were, but it seems to be very little difference. Like there's a few extra peanuts, but for the most part they're coming up with the plants, so which is not a bad thing.
So as you can see here, as Chris is digging and working away, our patch was a little bit mistreated this year. We had 3 rows of the peanuts that we planted them about 6 inches apart. Was it 6 or 8 inches?
Might have been 8.
Might have been 8 inches apart, but the rows are 3 feet apart. So we've got 1, 2, and then 3 was the one that Chris is digging up here. So it'll be interesting to see what this produces. I would say basically it's a 15 by 10 foot square that's been taken up with peanuts and weeds in the garden. So I'm curious to see what we got production wise from these plants.
So as we pull these out, what we're going to do sort of in the short term is bundle them together, kind of very similar to what we do with garlic, and we're going to hang them in the barn, kind of up on high on the walls where rodents can't get at them, and it just dries them a bit, and then we'll come back afterwards. We actually have a couple plants that we pulled out earlier. We'll show you before the end of the video, but we'll just come back afterwards once they're dried a bit and take them off the plants. So pretty simple, and not a lot of work, to be honest. Kind of plant them. We left them, sort of forgot them more than we probably should have, but
they were neglected a little bit.
Neglected, but we've still got, I mean, that's a lot of peanuts right there.
That's 4 plants there. So I think that's pretty productive, actually. And there's a few rogue ones down lower too, but yeah, not bad.
Well, as you can see, we have 2 of our 3 rows completely dug up, and a little less than half of another row left. There's the last row left to go. One thing that was kind of interesting so far is, at least from what I could see when digging up the plants, I only found 1 peanut that had been eaten by a rodent. So that's not bad in the grand scheme of things. The other thing, this garden is not super sandy. It's a bit of a clay. And the peanuts have done really well, but I think if it was a sandier soil, they probably would do better. Or, if nothing else, it would probably be easier to get them out. Although I still, compared to digging potatoes, I'm finding this quite easy and quite quick.
So up here in the loft, we've got them all tied to places around here. But here is our first half. And Chris is going to show you our second half.
And there's the other half of the plants. So, as we were kind of mentioning, just very similar to the garlic, tie them up, and basically the peanuts will dry. You definitely want to put them somewhere, if you're going to dry them like this, that you don't think rodents are going to get them, because they will, and this makes it super easy. But hanging up here in the stairwell seems to work pretty well, because this is basically where the cats hang out all the time. So anyways, we will come back once those have dried a bit, and we go to the next step. And here's the example of the cats in the stairwell. As I say, this is where Blue and Tebow tend to hang out a lot. So we had 1 bundle hanging here for a couple weeks now already, and that we dug out early with no rodent damage, so fairly confident that it's going to be fine here.
Well, it's getting late in the evening, but we are getting the peanuts out of the barn before the cold sets in tonight and some sort of critter comes along and find them. We've been very lucky this year. Nothing has come along and stolen these. No squirrels or chipmunks or mice. So we're going to get them inside and get them off the vines here. They're exceptionally dry now and see what we ended up with.
Well, it's been a little while, but there's our peanut harvest. So these were taken out of the ground on October 16th. And yeah, they've sat in the barn for quite a while. And as you can see from sound, the plants have dried completely, which is good. This little bowl of peanuts right here actually is all the peanuts that basically fell off when we did our harvest. So that's actually a reasonable bowl of peanuts. These are going to be used for eating. So we are going to roast these and see how that goes. But now that the peanuts are dry, the next step is to get all of these peanuts off the plants. Now, little thing we're going to try here is to pick them off without undoing the bundles, because something we have found is the other end of the bundle, the dried peanut plant, is something that the rabbits absolutely love. So there is some caveats with using peanut hay, but on a small scale like this, it's pretty easy to avoid any sort of molds and that sort of thing. So we're going to try to get a double harvest out of this. One nice thing about these peanuts is they come off the plant once it's nice and dry very easily. It's really almost no effort.
I'm curious as to how much we're going to get.
Very curious.
It's actually a very large storage container full of these, as you can see. We ended up with 3 really nice rows, as you saw in the garden, and it's dried amazingly. So this is going to be a lot of roughage, as well as a lot of peanuts, I think. Chris is working on the last one.
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty quick.
And it has.
It's nice because this is a crop that, yes, it has a bit of a shelf life, but you can kind of do it at your leisure, i.e. we're doing it end of November.
Yeah, they've been a whole month drying. That's pretty awesome. That's a big bowl.
Good-sized bowl.
Excited to get a weight on this and see. And then we still have our little, as you can see off to the side there, little stuff that had come off before. And we were impressed with that, but that's nothing compared to this bowl. Well, peanut harvest is complete. And I think we're pleasantly surprised and happy with it. Basically, we planted 36 feet. It was 3 12-foot rows of peanuts. Thank you once again to Dave Knight for giving those to us, because I'll tell you what, those homegrown peanuts certainly grew better. And look what we've got now for starting our own patch next year. I believe Dave does about 200 feet of peanuts. So our little 36 feet is kind of a pittance, but we're going to be scaling it up because we've decided we like peanuts, and they did really well for us, and very little work, to be honest. So in the end, we ended up with 3.5 pounds of peanuts still in their shell to be roasted, minus the ones obviously we're going to save for seeding next year. So all in all, peanuts were a win.
So there you have it, our 2022 Valencia peanut harvest.